You ever think you found peace, only to have someone try and rip it right out of your hands? That was me. I had a cabin, 20 acres of untouched woods, and finally, after years of noise and stress, I had silence. Until Linda showed up, not even a week in, and that woman made it her mission to turn my life into a legal, emotional, and logistical nightmare. And if you think I'm exaggerating, just wait. You're going to want to hear how it ends. Before we dive in, if you've ever dealt with an overreaching HOA or a Karen on a power trip, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. Because trust me, this story, it gets insane. So here's how it started. My name's Tom, 45, divorced, former police officer, 22 years on the job, mostly patrol, then 3 years in a regional task force. I'd seen enough mess for one lifetime. After the divorce and my early retirement, all I wanted was some quiet. No neighbors, no HOA, no politics, just trees and tools. And that's exactly what I thought I was getting when I inherited my grandfather's cabin. A wooden structure tucked into the northern ridge, surrounded by pine, with a gravel road connecting it to the county line. My road, my land. The paperwork was clear. It had been in our family since the 60s. The land technically wasn't even in the HOA district. It was grandfathered out. No dues, no meetings, no interference. Or so I thought. The first sign of trouble came 4 days after I moved in. I was stacking firewood behind the cabin when I saw her SUV pull up. White Lexus, spotless, plates with some kind of HOA vanity branding. Out steps this woman in her 50s, bob haircut, clipboard under one arm, sunglasses on despite the shade. "You can't live here," she said, before I even got a hello out. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. "Pardon?" She flipped a page on her clipboard. "This property is within the Lakewood Forest HOA. There are zoning restrictions. Permanent residence is prohibited without board approval." "No," I said. "That's not correct. This parcel's exempt. I have the deed." She stepped closer. "We'll need to see that. The board wasn't notified of any transfer. You're required to submit occupancy requests." Again, I said no. I told her politely that the cabin was legally mine and that she had no authority here. That's when her tone changed. "We'll see about that," she said, turning back to her car. "You'll be hearing from us." "From who?" I asked, but she was already driving away. The next morning, I woke up to find a metal gate installed across the gravel road. Not just any gate, welded steel, with a lockbox and a huge red sign, "Private, HOA, access only." They had chained off my only access route. I stood there for a while, just staring at it. At first, I honestly couldn't believe it. It was like something out of a bad sitcom. But this wasn't funny. This was illegal. I took pictures, called the sheriff's office, left a message. Then I called the HOA number listed on the sign. No answer, so I drove back around, 20 miles of detour through logging roads, and came back to the cabin from the rear. Took me 2 hours just to get back to my own porch. And what do I find? A letter taped to my door, signed by board chair Linda Martin, stating I was in violation of residency codes and trespassing on community property. That's when it really hit me. She wasn't just bluffing. She was coming for my land. First thing I did was head to town. I took the letter, the pictures of the gate, and every document I had proving that the land was mine. Deed, survey maps, tax records, all of it. Drove straight to the county records office and asked for someone who handled land disputes. A guy named Curtis, mid-30s, tired eyes, took one look at the address and nodded. "Oh, Lakewood Forest. You're not the first." "Not the first what?" "To get screwed with by their HOA president. That'd be Linda Martin." I handed him the letter. He sighed. "This area, your parcel, it's outside their jurisdiction, always has been. Their HOA map ends 2 miles east. Then why the hell are they putting up gates and threatening me with trespassing?" He just shrugged. "Because no one's ever pushed back." He made me official copies of the zoning maps, stamped and signed. He even wrote up a brief confirming that my property was not subject to Lakewood's HOA rules. I thanked him and drove straight to the sheriff's department. Now, mind you, I didn't come in hot. I've been on the other side of that desk. I know how guys shut down when you come swinging. So I stayed calm, explained everything, handed over the documents. The deputy on duty, young guy, maybe mid-20s, looked genuinely concerned. Let me get the sheriff. 10 minutes later, Sheriff Weller walked in. Older, thick mustache, cowboy boots. He looked over my papers in silence, then leaned back. Well, he said, technically, yeah, you're right. This here says you're out of HOA bounds. But these kinds of things, there's nothing to interpret, I cut in. She blocked a legal access road and posted a false claim of ownership. That's criminal interference. He frowned. Let's not jump to that. Sometimes these disputes... No, Sheriff, with respect, this isn't a dispute. This is theft of access, and someone welded steel onto my damn road. He stared at me for a beat. Let me talk to Linda. I'll see what she says. I stood. You do that. But this isn't over. I went back to the cabin, climbed around the gate again. That night I sat on my porch with a flashlight and watched, and just past midnight I saw headlights. I turned mine off, let the dark swallow the trees. The SUV pulled up slow. It was her. She got out with another guy, tall, wearing a reflective vest, and they stood by the gate whispering. Then she pulled out a bolt cutter and clipped off her own lock. That's when I knew. She wasn't defending rules. She was playing queen. The next morning I found my groceries had been tossed into the ditch by the gate. I'd left them there while trying to climb over with the rest of the bags. Eggs smashed, cans rolling in the mud. I'd had enough. I bought a trail cam, mounted it to a pine facing the road. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Natalie Reyes, mid-40s, sharp, no nonsense. I showed her everything. The photos, the footage, the documents. After 20 minutes, she leaned forward. Do you want to make this stop? I want my land back. I want her gone. Then we go legal. I'll file for injunctive relief, start the process for damages, and if she's falsifying legal claims, she is. Then we'll add fraud. But Tom, this won't be fast. County moves slow. I'm not looking for fast, I said. I'm looking for permanent. The next day I walked back to the gate. Someone had spray-painted trespasser on the gravel with red paint, and a new sign hung from the chain. Violation 47C, HOA fine, $2,500. That's when I realized Linda wasn't just trying to scare me. She thought she could break me. What she didn't know was, I don't break. I spent the next week doing exactly what Linda didn't expect. Digging. I combed through property records, found archived HOA meeting notes online, tracked down every complaint ever filed by Lakewood Forest residents against the board. And guess whose name showed up every single time? Linda Martin. Noise complaints, lawn disputes, trash bin violations, unauthorized dog breeds. You name it. One poor woman was fined $300 for letting her grandkids draw chalk on the driveway. But this wasn't just about harassment. This was about control. And I wasn't the only one she tried to isolate. A guy named Henry lived down a nearby hill, small cabin, Vietnam vet, lived off the grid for years. I remembered seeing him once, walking with a cane and carrying firewood. I knocked on his door one afternoon, introduced myself, and told him what was going on. He just chuckled. She came after me too, he said, sitting down on his porch. Back in 2008, said I was storing hazardous materials. It was kerosene. What happened? I ignored her. Then one day I came home and found cement poured across my driveway. She said the HOA was reclaiming the easement. Took me $6,000 and 3 months to clear it. He looked at me with those worn dark eyes. You're the first one I've seen fight back. That stuck with me. I started talking to others. There was a young couple, Julia and Eric, living in a renovated A-frame near the lake. They showed me pictures. Linda had walked into their backyard during their baby's birthday party and demanded they shut off the music because it wasn't on the approved volume list. I realized she'd built her own fiefdom, a paper crown and a fake throne, but people still bowed to avoid the fight. Well, not anymore. I set up more trail cams, hid audio recorders near the gate. I wanted everything: dates, voices, faces, proof. One morning, the footage caught something strange. Linda pulling up in her Lexus and unlocking the gate like usual. But behind her was a county utility truck. A guy got out, handed her a clipboard, and she signed something. That afternoon, I found a pink slip shoved under my cabin door. Notice of code violation. Structure requires review for safety compliance. Stamped with the county seal. I drove straight to the county office. Turns out the notice was real, but the report that triggered it wasn't. It had been filed anonymously through the HOA, claiming my cabin had visible foundation cracks and unstable roofing, neither of which existed. The clerk at the counter said, "We have to investigate any filed complaint, but we've had 3 similar ones about that address in the last 2 weeks." 3. Linda was trying to bury me in bureaucracy. I called Natalie. She filed an emergency injunction against any further interference, while we prepared to sue for harassment and property obstruction. But even that wasn't enough. One night around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of tires on gravel. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out on the porch, shotgun slung low, not raised, not aimed, just visible. There she was, Linda, and a man I'd never seen before. Mid-40s, camo jacket, clipboard in hand. They froze when they saw me. "Evening," I said. Linda sneered. We were inspecting the road easement. "At 2 in the morning?" She folded her arms. "You're threatening us with a weapon." "No, ma'am, I'm holding it. You're trespassing." She stepped forward. "You won't win this." I clicked on my flashlight. I already did. They left. I sent the footage to Natalie. She added trespassing to the complaint, said she was preparing to request a restraining order. But I wasn't waiting anymore. I made a call. An old friend from the force, Randy, now a county investigator with pull. I told him everything. He came up the next day with 2 deputies and a clipboard of his own. When he left, he looked at me and smiled. "Give it 2 days," he said, "and be ready. This is going to be loud." I asked him what he meant. He just grinned. "You'll see." It was 2 days later, just after sunrise, when I heard the rumble. Not from the trees, not from the wind, from the road. I stepped onto my porch, coffee in hand, and saw it. A bright yellow bulldozer crawling up the gravel like a tank in a war zone. Behind it, a county police cruiser. And behind that, Randy's unmarked SUV. I smiled. Linda didn't know it yet, but her kingdom was about to fall. I threw on my boots and met them by the gate. Randy stepped out first, clipboard under his arm, badge flashing on his hip. "You ready?" he said. "Been ready," I told him. He turned to the deputy in the cruiser. "Body cam on?" The man tapped his chest, red light blinking. Randy walked up to the gate, raised his voice. "This structure has been deemed illegal and unauthorized by the county assessor's office. It was installed without permit, outside HOA jurisdiction, and obstructs legal access to private property." He looked at me. "Want to do the honors?" I nodded. Walked over to the bulldozer operator and handed him a copy of the removal order. He gave a thumbs up, rolled forward, lowered the blade, and with a grinding shriek, the steel gate split and bent like paper. Chain links snapped. The red sign crumpled under the blade. It took 30 seconds. That was it, but that 30 seconds felt like freedom. I turned and saw her. Linda's SUV came speeding up from the other side, tires throwing dust. She slammed on the brakes, door already open before the vehicle even stopped. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Randy didn't flinch. "Miss Martin, you need to step back." "You can't do this. That gate is HOA property." "No, ma'am, it's illegally installed on a county road easement." Her face flushed red. She pointed at me. "He forged documents. He's a squatter." Randy held up the files. "Everything's verified, signed, recorded. You've been served notices. You ignored them." "I didn't get anything." "We have receipts, email confirmations, even video of you tearing one up." She charged forward. The deputy stepped in. "Ma'am, stop. You're interfering with county operations." Linda turned to him. "This is harassment. This is retaliation. He threatened me with a gun." "You were on his land at 2 a.m., Randy said. "That's on camera too." And that's when she lost it. She screamed something about lawsuits and bringing down the whole department. Then she shoved Randy in the chest. "Wrong move." The deputy moved fast. Arm behind her back, Miranda rights read out loud. Cuffs clicked. I didn't gloat, didn't smirk. I just watched. It was over. The news got there within the hour. Someone must have tipped them off. They filmed the broken gate, the handcuffed HOA queen, the crowd of neighbors who'd come out silently to watch it all fall apart. Julia and Eric stood next to Henry. They gave me a quiet thumbs up. Later that afternoon, county officials came to remove the rest of the structure and photograph the damage. Randy stayed behind. She's facing charges for obstruction, impersonation, false reporting, might dig up more. Will it stick? I asked. He gave a half smile. She's not as untouchable as she thought. That night, for the first time in weeks, I didn't sleep with the porch light on. The wind rustled through the pines. No SUV, no gate, no voice screaming from a clipboard, just the woods and peace. A week later, the sign at the entrance to Lakewood Forest changed. The HOA board had voted, under pressure and threat of lawsuits, to amend their official boundary map. My property was now explicitly excluded, in writing, in print, on every record. Not that it ever should have been included in the first place. Linda? She made bail, but word was she'd stepped down from the board. Her house had gone dark. Rumor had it she was staying with a sister in Idaho. Nobody saw her SUV again. I didn't dance, didn't throw a party. That's not me. But the following Saturday, something happened. I was splitting logs behind the cabin when I heard voices. I walked around and saw a few neighbors, Henry, Julia, Eric, and a couple others, setting up a grill just off the road. We figured, Eric said, you might like a little piece with some pulled pork. They brought folding chairs, paper plates, 2 cases of beer, and more smiles than I'd seen in years. People laughed, dogs barked, someone played a guitar. It wasn't loud, just real. At one point, Henry sat down next to me with a plate and said, "You gave us a reminder, Tom." Of what? That we don't have to take it, that rules don't mean justice, and sometimes silence ain't peace, it's surrender. That stuck with me. The next morning, I got up early, walked the property line, and checked the trail cams. Force of habit. Everything was still. The forest had exhaled. Back at the cabin, I repaired a loose stair plank, cleaned the chimney cap, and finally hooked up the old generator my grandfather left behind. It roared to life after 2 tries. I made coffee, poured it into a thermos, and sat on the porch. The sky was a flat blue, the kind that goes all the way back. You could almost forget how close it had come to being taken. Almost. See, peace isn't just quiet, it's earned. And sometimes to protect what's yours, you've got to fight smart. And sometimes, sometimes you've got to bring a bulldozer with a badge. That's the story. Thanks for sticking through it. If you've ever had to stand up to someone like Linda, drop your story in the comments. Let people know they're not alone. And if you got something out of this, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. I'll be here, in the woods, where I belong.